Welcome back to the Daily Digest, and today we have Jim Jordan absolutely obliterating Hillary Clinton. Let's watch.
Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You just gave a long answer, Madam Secretary, to Ms. Sanchez about what you heard that night, what you're doing, but nowhere in there did you mention a video. You didn't mention a video because there was never a video-inspired protest in Benghazi. There was in Cairo, but not in Benghazi. Victoria Nuland, your spokesperson at the State Department, hours after the attack said this: Benghazi has been attacked by militants. In Cairo, police have removed demonstrators. Benghazi, you got weapons and explosions. Cairo, you got spray paint and rocks. 1 hour before the attack in Benghazi, Chris Stevens walks a diplomat to the front gate. The ambassador didn't report a demonstration. He didn't report it because it never happened. An eyewitness in the command center that night on the ground said no protest, no demonstration. 2 intelligence reports that day. No protest, no demonstration.
Look at her just sitting there.
The attack starts at 3:42 Eastern Time. Ends
slimy.
at approximately 11:40 p.m. that night. At 4:06, an ops alert goes out across the State Department. It says this: mission under attack, armed men, shots fired, explosions heard. No mention of a video, no mention of a protest, no mention of a demonstration. But the best evidence is Greg Hicks, the #2 guy in Libya, the guy who worked side by side with Ambassador Stevens. He was asked if there had been a protest, would the ambassador have reported it? Mr. Hicks' response: absolutely. For there to have been a demonstration on Chris Stevens' front door and him not to have reported it is unbelievable, Mr. Hicks said. He said, secondly, if it had been reported, he would have been out the back door within minutes, and there was a back gate. Everything points to a terrorist attack. We just heard from Mr. Pompeo about the long history of terrorist incidents, terrorist violence in the country.
I would agree.
And yet 5 days later, Susan Rice goes on 5 TV shows, and she says this: Benghazi was a spontaneous reaction as a consequence of a video.
Oh, okay.
A statement we all know is false. But don't take my word for it. Here's what others have said. Rice was off the reservation on 5 networks. White House worried about the politics. Republicans didn't make those statements. They were made by the people who work for you in the Near Eastern Affairs Bureau, the actual experts on Libya in the State Department. So, if there's no evidence for a video-inspired protest, then where'd the false narrative start? Started with you, Madam Secretary. At 10:08, on the night of the attack, you released this statement: some have sought to justify the vicious behavior as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet. At 10:08, with no evidence, at 10:08, before the attack is over,
shit up
at 10:08,
to cover her own
Tyrone
ass.
Woods and Glenn Doherty are still on the roof of the annex fighting for their lives. The official statement of the State Department blames a video. Why?
Let's hear the lie.
During the day on September 11th, as you did mention, Congressman, there was a very large protest against our embassy in Cairo. Protesters breached the walls. They tore down the American flag. And it was of grave concern to us because the inflammatory video had been shown on Egyptian television, which has a broader reach than just inside Egypt. And if you look at what I said, I referred to the video that night in a very specific way. I said, some have sought to justify the attack because of the video. I used those words deliberately, not to ascribe a motive to every attacker, but as a warning to those across the region that there was no justification for further attacks. And in fact, during the course of that week, we had many attacks that were all about the video. We had people breaching the walls of our embassies in Tunis and Khartoum. We had people, thankfully not Americans, dying at protests, but that's what was going on, Congressman.
Secretary Clinton, I appreciate most of those attacks were after the attack on the facility in Benghazi. You mentioned Cairo. It was interesting what else Ms. Nuland said that day. She said, if pressed, by the press if there's a connection between Cairo and Benghazi. She said this: there's no connection between the two. So here's what troubles me. Your experts knew the truth. Your spokesperson knew the truth. Greg Hicks knew the truth. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth.
She does know the truth. Look at her. You
I
can
want
see
to
it
show you
on
a
her
few things
face.
here. You're looking at an email you sent to your family. Here's what you said.
She's got that.
At 11
oh,
o'clock
shit,
that
look.
night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an al-Qaeda-like group. You tell the American people one thing, you tell your family an entirely different
Yeah,
story.
we just gaslight the American
Also,
people.
on the night of the attack, you had a call with the president of Libya. Here's what you said to him. Ansar al-Sharia is claiming responsibility. It's interesting. Responsibility.
All right, we're back.
It's interesting. Mr. Katala,
I accidentally
one of the
stopped
guys
the recording.
arrested and charged, actually belonged to that group. And finally, and most significantly, the next day, within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth, but that's not what the American people got. And again, the American people want to know why. Why didn't you tell the American people exactly what you told the Egyptian Prime Minister?
Well, I think if you look at the statement that I made, I clearly said that it was an attack, and I also said that there were some who tried to
You just
justify
read your
it on the
statement out,
basis
Hillary.
on the basis of the video, Congressman. And I think it's
But real quick,
You
calling
lied
it
to
an
us.
attack is like saying the sky's blue. Of course it was an attack.
Well,
you don't, I mean,
it
we want to know the
shortly-
truth. That the statement you sent out was a statement on Benghazi, and you say vicious behavior as a response to inflammatory material on the internet. If that's not pointing as the motive of being a video, I don't know what is. And that's certainly how the American people saw it.
Well, Congressman, there was a lot of conflicting information that we were trying to make sense of. The situation was very fluid. It
You're
was
trying to
fast-moving.
make up bullshit
There was also a
stories
claim of responsibility
cover your own
by
ass.
Ansar al-Sharia. And when I talked to the Egyptian Prime Minister, I said that this was a claim of responsibility by Ansar al-Sharia, by a group that was affiliated, or at
Right.
least wanted to be affiliated with al-Qaeda. Sometime after that, the next day, early the next morning after that, on the 12th or 13th, they retracted their
Everybody
claim of
changed their minds the
responsibility.
next day.
And I think
Okay,
if
Hillary.
you look at what all of us were trying
We
to
dodged
do,
a
and
bullet last.
we were in a
back
position,
in
Congressman, of trying to
2016
make
and this
sense
last
of a lot
election,
of
we dodged a
incoming
bullet.
information and
Madam-
watch the way the intelligence community
You guys
tried to
imagine if
make
she
sense
was the
of it.
president?
Madam
And
Secretary.
so all I
There
can
was
say
not
is nobody.
There was not conflicting information the day of the attack because your press secretary said, if pressed, there's no connection between Cairo and Benghazi. It was clear. You're the ones who muddied it up, not the information.
Well, there's no connection.
Here's what I think's going on. Here's what I think's going on. Let me show you one more slide.
She don't look too pleased.
Again, this is from
She
Victoria
knows
Nuland,
she's full of
your
shit.
press person. She says to Jake Sullivan and Philippe Reines, subject line reads this: Romney's statement on Libya. Email says, this is what Ben was talking about. I assume Ben is the now somewhat famous Ben Rhodes, author of the Talking Points memo. This email's at 10:35, 27 minutes after your 10:08 statement. 27 minutes after you've told everyone it's a video. While Americans are still fighting because the attack's still going on, your top people are talking politics. Seems to me that night you had three options, Secretary. You could tell the truth, like you did with your family, like you did with the Libyan president, like you did with the Egyptian prime minister. Tell them it was a terrorist attack. You could say, you know what,
Which
we're
would
not
have been
quite
the easy
sure.
thing to do. That could have been easy to do
Don't
too.
really know for sure. I don't think the evidence is there. I think it's all in the first one, but you could have done that. But you picked a third option. You picked the
Gaslight.
video narrative.
Gaslight.
You picked the one with no evidence, and you did it because Libya was supposed to be as Mr. Rostam pointed out, this great success story for the Obama White House and the Clinton State Department. And a key campaign theme that year was GM's alive, bin Laden's dead, Al-Qaeda's on the run. And now you have a terrorist attack. And it's a terrorist attack in Libya. And it's just 56 days before an election. You can live with a protest about a video. That won't hurt you. But a terrorist attack will. So you can't be square with the American people. You tell your family it's a terrorist attack.
You can just see
not
the
the
guilt
American
on her
people.
face.
You can tell the president of Libya it's a terrorist attack, but not the American people. And you can tell the Egyptian prime minister it's a terrorist
She
attack,
ain't got no
but
remorse
you
in
can't
what
tell
she's
your own
done.
people the truth. Madam Secretary, Americans can live with the fact that good people sometimes give their lives for this country. They don't like it. They mourn for those families. They pray for those families. But they can live
Has
with
to
it.
happen.
But what they can't take, what they can't live with, is
People
when
lying.
the government's not square with them.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Madam Secretary, you're welcome to answer the question if you would like to.
Let's
Well,
hear the
I
propaganda
wrote a whole
bullshit
chapter
coming
about
out of her
this
mouth.
in my book, Hard Choices. I'd be glad to send it to you,
I'm
Congressman,
sure
because
you
I
did.
think the insinuations that you are making do a grave disservice to
I
the
wrote a
hard
book.
work that people
Nobody gives a
in the
shit,
State
Hillary.
Department, the intelligence community, the Defense Department, the White House did during the course of some very confusing and difficult days.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt in my mind that we did the best we could with the information that we had at the time.
No, you didn't.
And if you actually go back and read what I said
He
that
did.
night,
He's read it
I
multiple times.
I was very careful in saying that some have sought to justify. In fact, the man that has been arrested as one of the ringleaders of what happened in Benghazi, Ahmed Abu Khattala, is reported to have said it was the video that motivated him. None of us can speak to the individual motivations of those terrorists who overran our compound and who attacked our CIA annex. There were probably a number of different motivations. I think the intelligence community, which took the lead on trying to sort this out, as they should have, went through a series of interpretations and analysis. And we were all guided by that. We were not making up the intelligence. We were trying to get it, make sense of it, and then to share it. When I was speaking to the Egyptian prime minister, or in the other two examples you showed, we had been told by Ansar al-Sharia that they took credit for it. It wasn't until about 24 or more hours later that they retracted taking credit for
Secretary
it.
Clinton?
We also knew, Congressman, because my responsibility was for what was happening throughout the region. I needed to be talking about the video because I needed to be putting other governments and other people on notice that we were not going to let them get away with attacking us as they did in Tunis, as they did in Khartoum. And in Tunis, there were thousands of demonstrators
probably
who were
set
there
the whole
only
attack up.
because of the video, breaching the walls of our embassy, burning down the American school.
I wouldn't put it
was
past you.
calling everybody in the Tunisian government I could get, and finally President Marzouki sent his presidential guard to break it up. There were example after example. That's what I was trying to do during those very
what you were
desperate
doing,
and
Hillary?
difficult
Secretary Clinton,
hours.
if I could, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Clinton, you said my insinuation. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm reading what you said. Plain language. We know
Your
the attack
statement.
in Libya had nothing to do with the film. That's as plain as it can get. That's vastly different than vicious behavior justified by internet material. Why didn't you just speak plain to the American people?
I did. If you look at my statement,
did,
as
huh?
opposed to what I was saying to the Egyptian prime minister, I did state clearly, and I said it again in more detail the next morning, as did the president. I'm sorry that it doesn't fit
You said one thing to the Egyptian government and another thing to the American people. That's what he's talking about. Like, you're full of crap.
your narrative, Congressman.
She's
I can
still
only
trying
tell you
to.
what the
She's
facts
still
were.
trying
And
to
the
twist the
facts,
story
as the
on
Democratic
the Congress
members have
floor
pointed
here.
out in their most recent collection of them, support this process that was going on, where The intelligence community was pulling together information, and it's very much harder to do it these days than it used to be because you have to monitor social media, for goodness sakes. That's where the Ansar al-Sharia
lot harder to get away with your
claim
bullshit
was,
nowadays.
placed. I think the intelligence community did the best job they could, and we all did our best job to try to figure out what was going on and then to convey
didn't.
that to the American people.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair will now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff.
The C-SPAN
But
network.
yeah, guys. Let me know down below if you think she needs to be held accountable and thrown in prison or something, because what they've done is despicable. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me in this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.